The health visitor came round and just said, well, you know your child's retarded.
He just said to me, your child is mentally handicapped. She's deformed in her face, visually.
Shattered. It really was just an awful, awful time.
It's not something you plan for when everybody's looking forward to a big bouncing bonny baby.
We all hope we have healthy children, and to have someone tell you that that's not the case has an immense impact.
Well, she's got a strong character. She knows what she likes and what she doesn't like.
Most of the time she makes us laugh. She gets up and says things that completely surprise us that we didn't ever expect her to be able to say or do.
She's fun to be with, really, you know.
She's really good with people, old people, young people, everybody, loves everybody.
When she was born, we just felt there was something different, although nobody said anything at the hospital.
The doctor never gave a name to it. He just said to me, your child is mentally handicapped, she's deformed.
And he showed us a birth defect. She's got a little hand and she was very small and her eyebrows met in the middle.
And he's got a large fulcrum, an upturned nose and no sort of fulcrum,
no groove,
the groove in between it. I've also pointed out that his hands and fingers were small in proportion to the rest of his body, and also 2 of his toes were fused together.
You went through what did I do? What did I do to cause this to happen? We all want to be so proud of our kids, and suddenly you've got a child that's different, and nobody really understands what that's like.
Being the parent of any child can be challenging enough, but being the parent of a child with Cornelia de Lange Syndrome comes with its own unique set of challenges.
Cornelia de Lange Syndrome is where you get a combination of a growth problem, the children are usually small, and various particular malformations or particular birth defects, and a pattern of development which is often associated with quite profound learning disability or speech problems.
When our cells divide, the DNA in them has to replicate such that a copy is passed to a new cell. And when that happens, sometimes errors are made during the copying process, which are just natural errors. The vast majority of the time, a subsequent pregnancy is unlikely to produce a child with Cornelia de Lange syndrome.
CdLS is extremely rare, about 1 in 30,000 babies born. Few outside the specialist medical community have heard of it, let alone know anything about it.
If you think about the 400 or 500 people that we know about in the UK at the moment, and if you think about how many people a GP would see, the chances of a GP seeing somebody with Cornelia de Lange syndrome once in his lifetime is very unlikely. And so consequently, doctors don't know very much about it.
In many ways, feelings of great disbelief, sometimes great sadness, and then sometimes followed by great anger. Feelings of, why is it me? Why is it my child? Why not somebody else? And this can overwhelm you and feel you can't move on. But somehow, the love you have for that child, however and whoever they are, helps you to continue through that.
There's usually no predictors. There's often no way you could have known beforehand that your child was going to have Cornelia de Lange. And most of the time we think this is if you like, a genetic accident. It's just something that's occurred in the child for the first time.
The vast majority of dad's sperm cells might be perfectly normal, but one cell has made a mistake. Or in the case of mum, only one of her eggs has the mutation.
CdLS children will display some similar features. They will be small compared to children of the same age, have learning and communication difficulties, and some will have limb abnormalities, and they will share similar facial features. There is also great variation in the severity of the condition.
It is a series of problems that the kids will face, whether it's developmental problems, both physically and mentally, and various other medical issues that arise from developmental problems, and whether that's internal, whether it's limbs, and whether it's intellectual. There are a number of those different problems.
I think the striking thing about Cornelia de Lange Syndrome and children and adults with the syndrome is that there is huge variability in terms of general level of learning disability, but also the sorts of behaviours that people will show.
Thomas has got a lot of special needs. Thomas has only just at 8 started to walk. He's got the gastric problems that he needs medication for daily. Thomas has got club feet.
She does have periods of pain or, times when she's not feeling very well, and them are the difficult times with Bethany, really.
I think it's hard not knowing what's going to happen.
That is difficult, not knowing to what extent CdLS is going to affect Hayes is difficult. I don't know when he'll be walking, when he'll be talking, and it is hard and a bit scary, the unknown.
We were told that there are 15, a list of 15 symptoms, and Elizabeth has really got most of them, hasn't she?
Yeah.
From someone so severe to Tracy is such a big gap. It's such a big gap that I never realised how bad it could have been.
Communication can be a problem for children with CdLS. Some will never speak, others will begin to talk later than non-CdLS children, and many have hearing problems too.
She started to make things that sounded like words, but because of a problem with a cleft palate, it was coming through and I was saying those kind of sounds.
She does make some vocalisations, some noises, and you can get an idea from the noises, what she wants or how she's feeling, etc.
Thomas's hearing is he's only got a mild hearing loss, but he does have hearing aids to help with the sounds. But I say Thomas, he just loves noise, music. I mean, they're just things that make his world complete.
She'll find a way of letting you know. She'll either take you to something, or she'll bring a cup to you if she wants a cup of tea, or if she's lost something, she'll take you to where she thinks it is, and
you have to look for
whatever it is that she's lost.
They know much more than they say. So although they have problems communicating back, their level of comprehension and understanding is quite significant.
She's aware of everything that goes on. She notices anything new in a room, no matter how small, and she'll go and investigate it. So it's not that she's not looking, it's that she appears to be not looking.
Even before she could talk, I could say to her, go to the cupboard, get mummy a tin of spaghetti or whatever, and she knew everything to give you. She could communicate with everything I said to her, but she just couldn't answer back.
With limb abnormalities come mobility issues. But don't give up. These children are determined, and many will learn to walk.
Tracy could stand then. She could stand and walk around the furniture holding on to furniture, but he said she wouldn't walk. So I encouraged her the same day that he said she wouldn't walk. And she walked for 7 hours till she fell asleep on her own. And then I just thought, no, this can't be right. So I always treated her the same as the other children, never treated her any different. Just probably a bit more encouragement,
We were never actually told Bethany would never walk. I think the longer that goes on without them walking, you do wonder whether they ever will. You can hold her hand and she'll do some paces with you, but like in the last 12 months, to actually see her walk across the living room, it's been really fantastic. That's been a great achievement for Bethany, but she'll only do it when she wants to do it.
Before we came here, we lived in quite a much smaller property, where she didn't really have to walk. There was no point. When we came here, she shouldn't have decided that.
She took one look at it and got up and walked, so it was quite, quite surprising, really.
While most CdLS children have healthy appetites, getting the food in them requires patience and determination.
When I got her home, to feed her was just like impossible. She couldn't suck on a bottle. She couldn't suck. I'd be sitting there 4 hours trying to feed her a bottle. By the time that had gone, it was time for another feed. In the end, I cut a hole in the teat and literally sort of made her swallow it that way. That's the only way I could sort of feed her.
Thomas basically eats semi-solid foods. He can't drink liquids. His liquids have to be thickened. But having said that, he's a gannet. I mean, Thomas will eat anything that you can think of mashing down into a semi-solid form, Thomas will eat.
My wife spent hours and hours really dedicated to bringing Bethany's feeding on. So she does feed normally orally. She's got to the stage now where she can cope with small pieces of meat, sausages and food like that, which is good for classically affected CdLS children. I think she's done exceptionally well with the feeding.
Many display similar behavioural characteristics, often caused by frustration at their lack of ability to communicate or be mobile. Many have autistic tendencies too.
In terms of social behaviour, we see enormous variability. This is primarily related to whether children fall within the autistic spectrum. If they do, then we will see impaired sociability. On the other hand, it's very clear that we do see children and adults with Cornelia de Lange Syndrome who develop friendships and relationships in the same way that any other children and adult may do so.
We had some issues with her in those early stages. She would try to do things with other kids by using touch, for example, and she would reach out to touch somebody's face, and of course there's panic involved, and then there's panic involved, you move a lot faster. So we had problems with some other kids at the time.
The only strain I think we could ever say is emotional, where she gets upset because she hasn't got so many friends as other people. Every job that she'd ever been to, at first she was very, needed my support mentally, really, that was all.
Most people love her because she has got a smashing sort of temperament. There's no nastiness in it. I mean, her brothers and sisters will take toys off Bethany and she doesn't get affected by it like where, as if it happened the other way around, they would. She just sort of lets them get on with it and she'll go and play with something else. She's very nice from that point of view,
They don't like change. But once they're in change, I find with Tracy anyway, once the change has happened, she's adapted so quick like that it was like there was nothing.
She likes things to be ordered and to do at 3 o'clock in the afternoon what she did at 3 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday and the day before that. So she has a number of routines that she goes through. If we do buy anything new, it stays in a wardrobe for about 6 months while she gets used to the idea of it being in there, and then suddenly one day she'll wear it. Once she starts wearing it, it's very difficult to get her to stop wearing it. It will be, every other time. As soon as it's washed, it's back on again.
CdLS children tend to have a high pain threshold, and self-injurious behaviour is not uncommon.
A lot of the self-injury that we see in Cornelia de Lange Syndrome is directed towards the hands and the fingers, biting and picking. Now, when we've tested children and we measure the speed of nerve impulses in their arms, around 80% of children show very slow nerve impulses. And this may mean that they're not experiencing pain in their hands and arms in the same way that other people do.
Because it comes out of nowhere. She'll be happily playing and she'll suddenly start to bite herself. She does bite herself and she kicks her feet and kicks the skin off her feet. But I think it's because she's in pain all the time.
We've always been able to use distraction with Thomas. If we see him biting, we distract him with a toy or distract him by talking to him. If he starts to bang his head, we just move him from whatever he's banging his head.
Many will experience reflux, a condition where stomach acid returns up the esophagus, causing acute pain.
Around 75% of people with Cornelia de Lange Syndrome will experience gastrointestinal problems at any one point in time. And this is most commonly experienced as reflux, which means the acid from the stomach is coming up through the esophagus and can be felt in the throat and in the mouth.
You can sort of spot it when she's just having a mild sort of attack of it, and obviously there's not a lot you can do if you've already given her the drugs. You can give her some antacid type things and whatever.
There's a lot of vomiting involved and wheezing. She doesn't sleep at night because it comes up and goes into her lungs and she wheezes and coughs all night.
Having been told your precious baby has CdLS, you are probably feeling alone, confused and desperate. This is where the CdLS Foundation can help, a valuable source of information, comfort, knowledge and friendship.
Because it's so rare and it's unlikely that living in your area you will have another CdLS family near you. It is very sporadic. And we do know that parents do need to talk to other parents about the issues, and so the foundation was really created in order to provide that support. It also works very closely with the doctors worldwide, so as we can keep up to date with the medical information as it happens.
Many professionals will welcome the information that parents can bring to them, either from the foundation or from other sources. Professionals may not necessarily see many children with Cornelia de Lange syndrome, and parents can become the child's advocate and will, to some extent, become the expert on their child.
We have usually 2 meetings a year, and we're trying to run them on a very informal, relaxed basis where families just come along and they stay at a hotel, and it happens to be a dozen other or 20 or 50 other CdLS families staying at that same hotel at the same time. Sometimes we arrange for doctors to be there so the parents get the opportunity to talk to a doctor who has heard of CdLS. And I know, speaking to parents that do come along for the first time, that great relief they get when they go in for a one-to-one with the doctor and they say, well, my child's got CdLS. And the doctor says, oh yeah, I know that. Now, have you looked at this, this and this? And they haven't got to go through the whole explaining process.
The foundation has been really good to us. You know, we were pleased in the beginning for these people to be there, for there to be a support network, that some people we could talk to, go and ask, meet, see their children and learn from. It's a learning thing, especially in the early days.
After you speak to parents with a child with CdLS, it's like a massive weight's been lifted off your shoulder, and it's not as bad as yeah.
It's good to know that somebody's feeling the same way as you are as well. I think.
Yeah.
The kids are great lovers of life, and I think that parents need to recognise the fact that their kids do have a quality of life and there's something to aim for.
At first it may seem the future for you and your CdLS child looks bleak, but be strong. You will find being a parent of a CdLS child can be enormously rewarding, fun as well as challenging. And whether your child is mildly affected like Tracy or classically affected like Thomas, they will enjoy a rich and fulfilling life.
I would say that the most important thing they have to do is fight for their child. They have to fight a number of prejudices, whether it's from people in the medical profession or whether it's in the education system. They need to fight and represent their child.
It's like we've been told that speech therapy is quite important. Try and get that in when it's about 6 months. We've been told babies don't talk at 6 months, you don't need it then. But we don't want to wait for a problem to arise. We'd like to sort of challenge it head on and give them the help.
We sort of already know there's going to be a problem with that, so we kind of want to get in there as soon as possible.
It does seem like the end of the world when you're first given a child with such disabilities, but there will be joy. There will be good times. There'll be sad times, but by gum, there'll probably your good times will outweigh your sad times.
I think they'll be amazed at how much they find within them to carry on, to actually seek the best help for their child and to help their child reach the best potential through their support and their love.
There's not the syndrome and that's it. There's a personality and there's a person behind the syndrome, and they're just children who enjoy, talking to you and enjoy you talking and paying them attention and
music and playing.
Yeah, and running around with toys.
You're told your child isn't normal, so at the back of your mind you've always hung on to that thought she's not normal, so she can't do this and she can't do that. And it's not a matter that she can't, it's a matter that I held back, really, saying that she mustn't do this and she mustn't do that. I just see her progressing all the time, because every year she surprises me with something different. She's still progressing all the time. She surprises you with something ever. So, I think the future's bright for her.
We meet so many and talk to so many parents of newly diagnosed kids with CdLS, and it all comes flooding back. You know exactly how they feel. And I just wish that sometimes I could take them 5 years on and make them realise that it's actually not as bad as it seems.
I've got normal friends because they don't have CdLS and they get on alright with me because like we have laughs and that, and I get on alright with them. Sometimes I have them home for dinner and I cook them a nice meal and that.